we'll spend this evening with you. We're at a flex point in our history here in Virginia in this country right now. We're at a moment of choice and a moment of change. Kelly had a wonderful point that she made about the military's opinions about climate change. They've been formed for 30 years. In fact, if you go across the water at Naval Station Norfolk, they're in the last year of a renovation where they are raising all the pylons at Naval Station Norfolk by 3 feet. Because they just know it's already going to come, and it's going to cost $1 billion. Why not do it now as opposed to 10 years from now when everything's underwater? So those changes are already happening. I'm not sure if any of you saw the newspaper yesterday, but yesterday's Daily Press actually mentioned that the dead zones within the Chesapeake Bay were increasing for the first time in 3 years. We're at a decision point, people. You know, the president, this past budget cycle, proposed zeroing out all money for the Chesapeake Bay. The first time, 2016 was the first time in 40 years in which we actually saw a resurgence in some of the freshwater life that was in the bay. That's 2 generations before we were able to start seeing some change, but it's starting to occur. You know, up in Richmond, I went up to Richmond this past November and I thought, well, you know, it can't be like Washington, D.C. I mean, we're different here in Virginia. No, it's not different at all. All the same kinds of horrible bills that you see in Washington, D.C. come right through Virginia, and the only reason that they didn't occur was because there are 34 members of the House of Delegates who were voting the right way, and there was a governor who was willing to veto them. There was a bill this year to keep secret the contents of chemicals that are used for fracking. You all know what fracking is, right? They're going to take all the most evil things that you can possibly come up with from in a chemistry lab, and they're going to force it into the water until they can start pulling up natural gas. That's insane. I want to know what's in my water. Yeah. I want to know what's in my air. And I certainly don't want somebody to make a profit on poisoning my children. And yet we had a bill that had to be vetoed that was going to keep that all a secret. Because if you live in Southwest Virginia, you don't need to know about what's in your water. Just go ahead and drink it and see what happens. These kinds of things are at stake right now. And I spent this last session fighting for it. We held a rally that had 350 people come out in the middle of March to stand up against the administration's zeroing out of Chesapeake Bay funding. But we can't stand alone. I mean, I appreciate the work of the Sierra Club. I stand arm in arm with the Sierra Club, the League of Conservation Voters, so many of the other great environmental organizations here. But until we get more than 34 people who are with us, the best we can hope for is that we might be able to stop some of the bad stuff. Well, that's not acceptable to me. That is not the way that we make change. That's not the way that we make progress. That's not the way that we give our planet to our children better than we found it. And the way that we do that is we get to 51. And the way that we get to 51 is making sure that we elect Kelly J. Lucia, Shelley Simons, and Michael Wade. We need to have some allies up in Richmond. And so we're in a fight right now. Okay, I'm not very good at math. I'm generally not. I'm an English major. I can read poetry all right. I took a math class at CNU that was essentially statistics for poets. It was like what did they call it? Statistics for liberal arts majors. And it was like the philosophy behind math. So the best I can do is arithmetic, but that's 34, plus there's 17 seats that were won by Hillary Clinton last year that are currently held by Republicans. 34 plus 17, what's that?
51.
Boom! And then the world changes. Wow. And then all of a sudden, we can start not just being on defense, but on offense. And we can start making some of the changes that we need, some of the changes that our environment requires, and we can stop calling climate change recurrent flooding. Okay, where everybody's willing to talk about the effects of recurrent flooding as long as it's affecting their district. But they can't call it climate change. It's a dirty word. It's a dirty word in Richmond. And we have to change that. We have to change the environment in Richmond to change the environment in our community, to change the environment in Virginia, and to change the environment throughout the world. So I appreciate the love and support of the Sierra Club. I appreciate you all coming out on a stormy night like this. The last time I was actually in this room was about a week and a half ago for story time, which I would totally recommend. It's 10 a.m. on Wednesdays. It's really great. The room's packed. It's a little loud. So thank you all for everything that you're doing. But please remember that this November, we have the first opportunity since the president was elected to be able to have a change. There's lightning in a bottle right now. All we have to do is harness it. And the way that we do that is making sure that we all go out to vote. We tell our friends, we tell our neighbors, we knock on doors, we volunteer, we make phone calls, donate a little money. Wouldn't be a politician without saying that. And then when you wake up on November 8th that morning, the world's going to be a little different. So thank you all very much.